with women in general, there's a lot of pressure to be perfect in so many ways. I mean, this is, really, pressed upon us at a very early age, right? Be a good girl, be a good student, be have the best, outfit, don't get dirty, whatever. We all know that, blah, blah, blah. And, I just thought, I really hate that. I hate that so much because perfection takes away so much of a person's uniqueness, their creativity, their what makes them special, what makes them quirky. So if we're striving for perfection, it takes all that away. It takes away our creativity. It takes away our innovation because we're not going to fail, right? We're not going to make mistakes. It doesn't allow us to make mistakes. And there's no end to perfection. So
yeah. Hello, welcome back to the F.E.E.L podcast today. I'm your host, Melissa Crook. I'm so excited to share this guest with you today. She and I met several months ago and got to know each other. And the minute I heard her story, I'm like, oh, I cannot wait to share her on my platform. I think that you all are going to have so much to learn from her story and her journey and how it connects to how she shows up in the world today. And we're going to get into that. But Jodi Bondi Norgaard describes herself as an advocate, a good listener, and a believer in equality. Jodi, welcome to the F.E.E.L podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me, Melissa. I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
I am too. And I think this is so interesting that sometimes when we look at the things that we work in or how we show up in the world or the things that our kids are engaged with, sometimes we don't always make the connection to the deeper meaning behind it or what that might mean for them in the moment later on as they reflect. This is going to mean more as we get into Jodi's story and share what her background is and how she got on that road. And it's really going to line up with that believer in equality. Remember that advocate piece. Remember that this is all going to come full circle. But before we get started on that, Jodi, talk to me about the very basic premise, but important premise. In order to show up as an advocate in the world, in order to be a good listener, in order to really continue to fight for equality for women, you've got to have a full cup to operate from, and you've got to have the energy to continue living in that and also maintain a balance of not allowing it to steal your joy when it gets frustrating and hard at times. So talk to me about your self-care journey and how you've learned to take care of yourself well through this road that you've been on and these things that you're so passionate about.
Okay. All right. I feel like there are a lot of things I could answer there. Do you want me to start with my self-care or do you want me to start with my journey? And then I can start with and then tell you throughout this beginning period how I kept, care of myself mentally and physically.
That second one.
Okay, perfect. Because, for the first half of my life, truly, I thought, I needed to lean in more. I needed to buck up. I needed to work harder. That, there was something wrong with me, right? That why is this so hard? And this is before I had my aha moment, which I will eventually get to. But I saw a lot of discrepancies in our culture when I was younger that was not beneficial to women. Yeah. Right? Like you have to work harder. I mean, one of the things that I write about in my book is I'm right out of college. I go in for an interview. This other guy is interviewing. We're in the office, that we're going back and forth, and then they let him go. And I'm like, okay, it's me. And they said, okay, we'd like for you to come back for one more test. I'm like, okay, one more test. Yeah. And they're like, it's a typing test. I'm like, wait a minute. He didn't have to take the typing test. I have to take the typing test, right? Like, why do I have to do this? And she's just like, shh, don't make any waves. Just do it, right? Yeah. So I saw a lot of things like that, right? That we had to go the extra mile, that there was, that there were certain things that undervalue and undermined women. Mm-hmm. Another thing, for instance, I had so many people ask me, how do you do it running a business with 3 kids? I'm like, have you ever asked my husband that? I can bet not.
Yeah.
I can bet not. But I had bet a lot of your listeners and female listeners have heard that.
Yep.
But so I seriously, Melissa, went along with this bullshit for half my life until I had an aha moment when my daughter was 9 years old. And then I have two boys on either side, all pretty close in age. But I am going to go through once I say that, but a lot of things, what really helped me in my life to keep myself physically and mentally sane through all this, and this has just worked for me, was exercise. So I was always a big runner, not a great runner, but it was just like the best bang for my buck. And if I could get out there for 30 minutes, I found that it cleared my head. It made me a better person. It made me a better friend. And then as I moved forward, it made me a better wife and mother. And I liked myself better. I could just think more clearly. So I think, the exercise for me became my meditation. And to this day, I try to do something every day, whether, it's a walk or a bike ride or, playing paddle, which is a big sport out in Chicago, outdoor sport, and, doing something like that. But that has really, kept my sanity.
Yeah. Yeah. And helped you continue. We're going to talk about this in a minute, that mental, emotional, physical health connection, because you really addressed all of that within that. Before we talk about that, talk to me about setting healthy, I can say this the right way, setting healthy boundaries for yourself. You've got a company, you've got kids, you've got a spouse, you have this advocacy work and these ways that you care about women so much that you've got to build some time and space with what you will allow in your space and what you won't allow in your space. And sometimes that might mean saying no to some things that are good, but they just aren't aligned at the time. Talk to me about how you've learned to do that for yourself in a way that allowed you to show up as your healthiest, authentic version in all these different spaces that are calling to you.
Yeah. It was a lot to juggle, and I felt very passionate about everything you just mentioned there. So, but one of the things that I gave myself permission early on. So when I entered the toy business, I knew nothing about the toy business, nothing, designing, manufacturing, retail, bringing a product to retail, nothing. And I needed to figure it out. But I said to myself, you know what? I've got to give myself grace, because if I make some errors, it's okay. Yeah. Because how else am I going to learn? Right. How else am I going to move forward if I don't, and I don't like to say fail, but it's more of making errors or making mistakes. Sure. So I gave myself that, and I really have stuck with it throughout my whole career. Yeah. Because I saw the benefits of it. I think with women in general, there's a lot of pressure to be perfect in so many ways. I mean, this is, really, pressed upon us at a very early age, right? Be a good girl, be a good student, be have the best, outfit, don't get dirty, whatever. We all know that, blah, blah, blah. And, I just thought, I really hate that. I hate that so much, because perfection takes away so much of a person's uniqueness, their creativity, their what makes them special, what makes them quirky. So if we're striving for perfection, it takes all that away. It takes away our creativity. It takes away our innovation, because we're not going to fail, right? We're not going to make mistakes. It doesn't allow us to make mistakes, and there's no end to perfection. So yeah.
Exactly. You said that so well. It was literally in my brain, and you said it the minute it came to my brain. It robs you of that creativity, the trying of new things, the experimentation, the fearlessness to tap into something and see what's there. And you've had these different moments in your life where you've had phenomenal ideas, but you had people in your path and in your way, because the toy industry is a more male-dominated industry than I think people realize, and how toys are introduced and how they're gender assigned and all these different things we do in society within that. And so if you didn't give yourself that grace, these ideas and creative spaces would never come through in you to lead you down the road today. I don't like the word failure because I don't like our relationship with the word failure. I don't see, if you learn something from it, if you gave it a try, if you took a gamble on yourself, it's never a failure. The only the only failure is not trusting yourself to do that thing. So I think if we could learn to live out of that scope of it, it would be so helpful too.
Right. And not trying.
Yeah.
Right. There's so much fear associated with failure.
Yeah.
And it just prevents people from, trying something. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but it may lead to another great idea, or might spark an idea in somebody else.
Yeah.
Within your team.
Yeah.
Within your family, within your, whatever situation you're, in at that point. Right. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we talk about mental, emotional, physical health, you talked about how the running, it became tapped into that. It became a meditational activity for you. I'm a firm believer that we got to take care of all those spaces, or we will start feeling the bad outcomes of not tending to those spaces physically. You'll start having these physical manifestations of things because all this other stuff, these mental and emotional stuff, has been stuffed away. You're working in these environments, again, like I said earlier, that really require you to tune into that. So talk to me. Has there been a time where you got away from that you had a wake-up call that you needed to get back into it? Or have you always been aware? You talked about, running being a part of it. Have you always been aware of that? Or talk to me about how you kind of learned that, oh gosh.
Oh, I've always been aware, 100%. I mean, I have never gotten off of it because I feel everything is connected, right? And for me, it just made sense to, move my body. Yeah. If I move my body, I was way more creative. Mm-hmm. There were so many ideas I came up with on a run. Yeah. And, I just got lost in it. But I don't know. For me, Melissa, it was very important. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I never, ever, ever have deviated from that at all.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you trusted that. I love that you trusted yourself in it. I love that you made it a non-negotiable. I think it's so important that we can tap into those things and they just go on our calendar and there are non-negotiables and everything else works around that because we know this is necessary for us to show up as our present, freshest, most authentic self. And I relate to you so wholeheartedly. I'll do a vigorous workout or whatever it is I need that day, 10 minutes of quiet time, a walk, whatever. And all of a sudden, as I clear the space and I take that space, the creative ideas come, the things I haven't thought of before, maybe something I've been ruminating on for a week, trying to come up with something. And all of a sudden it makes sense because I created that space for it to happen. I think that you cannot underestimate the power of that. So good. All right. Showing up for ourselves and other women and living unapologetically. This is so much a part of what you do. But I want to take you back to a story you shared with me when we met about this doll that you created and your response to it, but what you learned from that. So take us, because I think this is a part of that unapologetic. I'm going to create this. We're going to see where it goes. But even when you do that, sometimes you run into walls and things that can really take you out if you don't have that belief in yourself and continue to have that unapologetic understanding of the importance of taking those steps.
I think in addition to having belief in myself, which wasn't always as strong at times during certain times of my journey, I had belief in women and equality. So that is what really kept me going. I will get to my story here in a second, but in my life, I've never thought like I'm the smartest person in the room, or I know everything, or I'm always right. Not at all. Yeah. Not at all. Yeah. 100%. I love learning. I love hearing people's ideas and thoughts. I'm open-minded. Again, I like to listen. But when it came to the simple human right of gender equality, I knew I was 100% right. And I knew I wasn't going to back down ever. So what happened is when my daughter was 9 years old, I had a lot of, those gender issues were on my radar, right? The gender inequality. So when she was 9 and my older one was 10 and then my younger one was around 6, I started to see discrepancies in products marketed to girls. And boys. So I started to see products marketed to girls associated with appearance and attractiveness, products marketed to boys associated with violence and aggression.
Yeah.
Now, my boys were never violent or aggressive, and I didn't want to encourage that. And my daughter was always so smart, and I didn't want her to feel that she had to, all of a sudden focus on what she looks like.
Yeah.
So my aha moment just happened in a very unglamorous, place. It was at a toy store. So I'm just going to tell you what my daughter looked like because she looked like a normal kid on a Saturday afternoon. She had just gotten done playing soccer. So she's in her shin guards, her jersey, her hair is in crazy, messy pigtails. Her face is all rosy from exertion. When we have one of those I had a panicky parent moment because she needed a wrap birthday gift for a party she was attending in 30 minutes, right? Right. We all have it. It's like, come on, we got to get going.
Yeah.
And so we're running into our local toy store when we're frantically going up and down the aisles when a line of dolls just stopped me in my tracks. They had short skirts, crop top, belly button ring, big hair, lots of makeup. I look at my daughter. I look at these dolls. I pick up one of the dolls that I bought her, and the name on the hang tag was Lovely Lola. So this is Lovely Lola. This is what, and so the other dolls you can see, right? I'm like, what in the world? This is insane.
Yeah.
So this is Lovely Lola. So I started picking up the other dolls in the line, and there was Sizzle and Sue and Dazzle and Destiny and Cute Candy. Literally had a meltdown in the toy store. I brought this doll up and I said, listen, you should not be marketing this crap to our girls.
Yeah.
And the kid's like, well, I'm 16. I'm like, you know what? Tell your manager because I am sick and tired of it. So I did. I brought the doll home to my husband and I said, listen, I think I can do something about it. I think I can create a positive image doll that encourages girls to be healthy physically, mentally, and emotionally through sports and physical activity.
Yeah.
So I did. And it took 2 years from rough draft to the actual debut of the first doll. So, I mean, there was a lot, that I had to figure out. Like I said before, I knew nothing.
Yeah.
So my daughter was a great model and all her friends that would come through, I'd measure all their, wingspans, the size of their head, their torso, their the length of their legs, because I shrunk it down to make sure it was in correct proportion to a little girl's body.
Yeah.
So yes, there's a lot that went into it, but I'll pause there in case you have any questions, or I can move on to my first order, but that was pretty exciting.
I love that. I love that I think it's one of those things. So I'm a mom of 3 daughters, and this drove me crazy. And so I remember there was this particular Barbie on my oldest daughter's list, and I'm like, I am not getting her a Barbie, but they just come out with a line of WNBA Barbies.
Oh, right.
Like, that's where I will. Okay. She's wanted this Barbie, and the funny thing, she wasn't really a Barbie kid. She was very outdoorsy, very athletic, also very creative, but she was all the things. Like, she was this full person, and she wasn't, we try to put little boys and little girls in these boxes and conform them, when all 3 of my girls were all of these things, all of these, what we call feminine, what we call masculine. They embodied all of these things. And I I came up in an environment that was very gender specific about how you were supposed to show up in the world. I was surrounded by boys and men's opinions about that. And I didn't want them to feel that burden. And so we got her this WNBA Barbie, and she still talked about it because at the time she was irritated at the time, but then she came to understand she and her sisters are the biggest WNBA fans on the planet. Like, they know what's going on all the time. But that was something that I was very like, God, what is it that we can do that can be like meet her where she is, because she's seeing all these other little girls around her. She's seeing the stuff advertised on the Disney Channel and Nickelodeon and all these spaces and places we inhabit at her friends' houses. But also that isn't, I feel like caving on my own values of what I want for my daughters. So yeah, I think that, and so I love how you took that moment and as a mom and you're just like, there's nothing here that fits this. And I had the three daughters coming off the soccer field in the shin guards, the rosy cheeks, the going to the birthday party after that, looking that way. Right. And it's like, where's this in all their forms and types and tall, short, little chubby, little, ski, whatever it is they are in all their little phases. So talk to me about what it felt like to really make this align with where your daughters and her friends were, and then having that first order.
Right. You know what? I do want to bring out, you made me think of something, and, that every parent, wanting to buy a doll for their daughter, will understand, or be shocked when I tell them this, but when I was designing the doll, I had to start somewhere. So I started some, with research, obviously, were there any sports dolls out there? No, Barbie would come out every now and then with, an Olympic doll or, some other sports doll, here and there. But I did find 75 lines of fashion dolls. Jeez. 75 lines. There are still 75 lines of fashion dolls approximately out there.
Wow.
And no sports dolls. So to me, I thought it's a no-brainer, right? Like, I'm not saying you don't have to take away any of the dolls. You don't have to take away any of the 75 lines of dolls, but just give them an option.
Yeah.
Right. Because, that is, like you said, your daughters are full people.
Yes.
We all are.
Yeah.
So when we, pigeonhole children into certain directions, right? This, this box feminism, this box masculism. It's not healthy. It's not healthy at all. And it limits our growth as a country, as a world. So anyway, obviously I wasn't thinking like that in the beginning, but I've learned so much since then. So my first order was, it just by chance, it was a phone call that I made to the United States Tennis Association to buy the dolls for, the US Open in 2008.
Yeah.
And I got to the right person right away. And they said within 5 minutes, they're like, we love this. We'll take 500. So those 500 sold out in 6 days.
Wow.
So that was a great first test. So that was for Tennis Girl. And they repeated that order every year. It was just great. They sold so well at the US Open.
Yeah.
But my next goal was to launch the line of 9 dolls at the New York Toy Fair. So that was in 2009, in February of 2009 at the Javits Center.
Okay.
And that's where everybody comes in from all over to see what the next best thing is.
Yeah.
And I'm like borderline cocky. I'm like, it's me.
Yeah.
It's me. I got the next best thing.
Yeah.
Well, not so much. I had so many buyers come to my booth and say, I love your product. My daughter plays soccer. She would love Soccer Girl Cassie. And I'd say, great. How many would you like to buy? And I'd always get the hand. Oh, no, we're not going to buy it because it'll never sell. And I said, well, why? And they said, because ultimately girls like fashion. Can you create a fashion doll? I'm like, that's my point. As a mother of a daughter, and as a woman, I'm positive girls like more than fashion. Yeah. Now, I always like to preface, I have nothing against fashion.
Absolutely.
I really don't.
Yeah.
I love how people express themselves. I love how designers are artists and they do amazing things. I have nothing against it. But does it define a person?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's just one facet of who you can be. And so we just, and then you see this doll, and these are your, you talk about these 75 different ones. They sell well because they're the only option. So why don't we put something out there to compete against that. But then that disrupts a whole other narrative that we have.
That's a really interesting point, Melissa, because this happened in the, the nut butter industry years ago. So when I was growing up, all we had was peanut butter, right? That's it.
Yep.
There was, you could have 75 lines of peanut butter and, that's all we had. Mm-hmm. But if somebody went in and said, well, I have cashew butter, I have, pistachio butter and almond butter and all this stuff. But the grocer said, but really, my customers only like peanut butter. They would have missed out on a huge revenue growth within the nut butter industry.
Yeah.
So it took when they introduced all the different types of nut butters, it took just a tiny bit away from the peanut butter revenue, but it exploded the nut butter revenue.
Yeah.
So, so to your point, that, when the buyers were saying they only buy fashion, they only like fashion dolls. If that's all you're offering them, that's all they're going to buy.
Yeah. You don't have any test out there to show that differently if they have a different option. I think you said something I think it's so important. This feeds so much into these patriarchal societal norms that we have lived with as women for thousands of years. They aren't new. We just see different iterations of it over time. And we're hearing a lot of conversations now about how men in our country are getting to these spaces of feeling lonely and detached and all these things. And we run into these spaces with women. I talk to women all the time who hit this midlife point and they crash because they've never stopped to consider what they were aligned with. What if we stopped putting these kids in boxes when they're 3, 4, 5 years old, 2, 3, 4, from the moment they're born, and how we dress them and how we present them and how we decorate the room, the toys we buy for them and tell them what it is and is okay for and not okay for them to play with based on all these gender norms. What if we just allowed them to be and see by exposing them to all of their options and being fully open to all the possibilities, maybe all of a sudden they're choosing life based on who they were designed to be. They're not running into these loneliness and I don't know where to belong and toxic masculinity and not being, midlife crises because they were never cheated of the opportunity to explore that in the first place. And that starts with the toys that they play with and the things that the stereotypes and stigmas that we put around that.
Mm-hmm. It starts the moment a child can hold a toy, a book, or watch a screen.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
And a lot of people in the toy industry call it packaged childhood.
Yeah,
they package the childhood, and that's where we direct them. So you are 100% right. My feeling is we have nothing to lose.
Right.
We have nothing to lose. So why not?
Yeah.
Why not give it a shot? But I think parents really have a lot of power.
Yeah.
I think women have a lot of power. We're 51% of the population. We control over 80%. I think, what is it? Like 80, almost 90% maybe of the consumer spending. Mm-hmm. So we have, it's really time for us to recognize our power.
Yeah.
And to use it and to press on together.
Yeah.
Because we do have a lot of power. So if you don't like something in your house, just don't buy it. Yeah. Don't buy it. Yeah. If that will send a strong message to the retailer and the manufacturer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that coming together piece. It is so important for us as women to come together in this, to learn and listen, going back to that listening piece, be a good listener, learn somebody else's story, how it is you can show up and support them in this and model that to our little girls as they come up. Going back, so you leave the toy fair, and I would have been absolutely bamboozled and infuriated coming out of that because I was with you. You were telling me this story the first time. This is a slam dunk. This is what we've been waiting for. So talk to me about after coming out of that experience, kind of like, okay, what do I do with this now?
I know. What do I do now? I needed to figure it out. I really did. And I'm like, I'm like, how do I set myself apart from, the big companies, the Barbies and all the 75 other lines of fashion dolls. And I'm like, I have a story and
Yeah.
it's pretty good. And so I did a really big PR push and it was successful. And I mean, and it just kept going. It just kept going. Right. So I found that I was in a ton of publications. I was on a ton of shows, including the Today Show did a feature on me and my brand, which was really cool. And so I also won all the top awards in the toy industry.
Wow.
So I knew I had a pulse on what our culture wanted. I knew I had a vibe that parents wanted more for their girls too.
Yeah.
But the buyers were my gatekeepers. They're just in this really antiquated wash, rinse, repeat cycle, right? They're looking for the next big thing. And is it the next Barbie? Is it the next, I don't know, Cabbage Patch doll? What is it? What is it? So they're looking for this next best thing. And, a lot of buyers did say, one day this is going to be huge. And when it is, give me a call because I'll jump on board. I'm like,
yeah, what are we waiting for?
I know. So, it's just, it all comes down to, bottom line, Melissa, sadly.
Yeah.
I mean, it comes down to, is this going to make our company a lot of money? Is this going to, give our shareholders what they want?
Yeah.
So, a lot of times, we think that the toy industry has the kids, top of mind, but not always.
Yeah.
Not always. So we have to be really careful. One of the examples is, are you familiar with the LOL dolls?
I'm not, but my kids are grown now, so I'm a little, and I don't have grandkids yet, so I'm in that in between, like not in touch.
Yeah, you're in the no toy phase.
Yeah.
You're in the big ticket item phase
Exactly.
with your kids. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's the LOL dolls were created by MGA. And that company is a privately owned company, a very big company, and they're the creators of the Bratz dolls. Okay. So that'll be, I know.
I would not let my daughters have Bratz dolls.
No.
I would say that.
No.
I hate those things.
They were awful. They still are awful. Yeah. And so the company created in the late, I think it was probably around 2018, maybe they were launched 2017, these LOL dolls. So they came in the fall and it had a surprise, right? So, it was like a landfill nightmare. They're still around, but you'd open the ball and every little thing is packaged, right? Yeah. So it was like the surprise factor. Oh, I got shoes to go along with the dolly or whatever. And so these things are like that big and they're plastic. And they had a color feature, which a company disclosed, a secret color feature. But what they didn't disclose is that when you dip the little dolls in cold water, which they encourage you to do, some of them came out with sexy lingerie. Others came out with a devil tail on its backside. Others had shackles on their wrists and ankles. Yes. This toy won the Toy Association Toy of the Year Award in 2019, 20, and 21. They're still out there.
There's a 50 Shades of Grey doll.
I know. Can you even imagine? I know. So, I mean, there were parents that went nuts on this. And, MGA said, well, we just go off of what, culturally is happening. And we bring this to our kids. It's like, that's your excuse. That's your excuse.
That's so void of values.
I know. Can you imagine sitting around like a big table saying, yeah, let's have this one with shackles on our wrists? It's like, ugh. Why didn't somebody do that and just say, no, we can't do that. Yeah. That's inappropriate. Yeah. So I called, I know a lot of people in the Toy Association. I called them up because I did an article on it. And I said, do you know that this is what MGA did? Because it won your top Toy of the Year award 3 years in a row. And they're like, no idea. Wow. I'm like, okay, you better, do your homework a little bit more. So that's why I think, like sexy dolls are alive and kicking. And I don't know why MGA and their, President Isaac Larian decided that this was a good idea and that actually little girls would like this. But it's not only the message that is damaging to little girls, it's also damaging to little boys, because this is how we view little girls.
Exactly. Right? Yes. It starts so early, and we
Mm-hmm.
don't take into effect how early we're planting this seed
Mm-hmm.
of how to view, how to treat, what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. And it does so much damage. I mean, that is infuriating to me. Instead of looking at a doll like you've created that gives options and empowerment of like, oh, girls are athletes too. Oh, girls run too. Oh, girls are strong too. Like, or for little boys that like, oh, that'd be fun. I'd like to play with her. That and being okay, like all these stigmas and stereotypes and conditions and shoulds that we've put in these kids' lives that form and starting to make let's get upriver on this stuff and start responding instead of reacting later when the damage has been done. We continue to put this garbage out in the world. I mean, I think that's so important, which leads me to my next point of your why and your values. You have a very, you have never given in to the absurdity. Like you've never let it derail you from your purpose. Talk to me about when you knew this is what you cared about. This importance of it. Yeah. When was that connect point that you made? Like, this is my thing.
Well, I've always been surrounded by, very strong and smart women. Mm-hmm. And it always was confusing to me when, I'd hear my friends, say, oh, I'm just not that smart. I'm like, oh my God, you're the smartest person I know.
Yeah.
Like, why would you say that? Or, and just hear their confidence just be chipped away and chipped away and chipped away. And, I also, Warren Buffett said something that really resonated with me. He said, look at what our country has accomplished using half its talent. And imagine what we could accomplish if we pulled women off the sidelines.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so interesting because when I was younger, and just my own observation, when I was, in my own story, and we all have these stories, but I was, a very, I was a good student. I had a lot of friends. I was, that kid that the teachers would say, hey, we have a new student. Would you mind sitting with them at lunch? I felt good about myself. And then I got older and into junior high. So those things that made me strong, like my sensitivity, my compassion for others, those things that I knew innately were my strengths and that I was told were my strengths when I was a younger person, all of it a sudden became my weaknesses as I got older, right? I was told I was too nice. I was too kind. I was too sensitive. I would never make it in the business world because I was too compassionate and I just didn't have what it took to make it. My guidance counselor actually told me that when I was a senior in high school. I know it was just like, so then and then I was, when I was younger too, I was, very blonde and, if I asked questions, I had 2 male teachers tell me in junior high, in middle school, that the reason I asked those questions was because I was blonde. And I was like,
oh no.
Okay. And so
not the whole dumb blonde narrative. Well,
yeah, they were basically calling me a dumb blonde, which led to, those idiot, kids in school giving them permission to call me a dumb blonde. So then I was known as a dumb blonde. So I'm telling you this because those instances, when I was always a leader in my own mind, and I felt like that, and when I was in younger, as I got into high school, I thought I want to do student council. I don't want to be the president. I'm going to be on the tennis and track team. I don't want to be the captain.
Yeah.
Right. Like I found myself no longer sitting at the front of the class, in the middle and in the back, because I wanted to hide. I didn't want to raise my hand. I felt like I was sitting on the sidelines when I had a lot to offer.
Yeah.
I felt that, you know what? This is my place. I'm going to be sitting on the sidelines.
Yeah.
Until I got to college and I was like, what am I doing? Like, I just woke up and, and I was getting a lot of, good feedback from, my work and, whatever I was involved in. I'm like, you know what? I've been sitting on the sidelines and it's time to get off the sidelines and it's time to take other women and help them off the sidelines. So that has been my mission, is to not allow women to sit on the sidelines.
Yeah. And that's really the moment, which goes perfectly into our next talking point. You stopped living out of other people's expectations and started living out of your own. You came back home to yourself. You came back home to who you knew you were in elementary school. And I think it's so interesting. I was listening to somebody the other day, can't remember who it was talking about this, the very important parts in all of us, no matter how we identify, no matter our gender. There are those masculine traits and there's those feminine traits, and they exist in all of us. And we need them all for all the different ways that will show up in the world. And so, embracing all of the parts of us and seeing all the parts of us as a strength that, depending on the situation, we will need to tap into at different times and call on to allow us to be fully present and aware and the healthiest version of ourselves that moment requires. But when we shut those things off because of the narrative we've received, that means you're weak, or that means you're soft, or that means you're this or that, like, we've completely cut off a part of ourselves. And it's been done to all of us. And at some point there's a reckoning with that. And I would say there's a reckoning with that right now in this country. We are being led by individuals who operate out of these partial hurt, damaged parts of themselves, and where they don't feel the freedom to tap into the full expression of it. And we're all suffering for it. And going back to this starts with when you're in the toy aisle, when you're shopping for your kids for the holidays, for birthdays, for their friends. Think about the things and the messages you're sending to them. But let's get back to you. Got off on a soapbox moment there. But let's get back to you decided in this moment. It is time for me to live out of my own expectations instead of others. Was that kind of a really freeing moment for you?
Yeah. It was. It was just like, this is insane, right? I'm seeing so much of this. That women just aren't feeling confident. They, in my opinion, should have been way more confident because, they were all that in a bag of chips. I'm like, oh my God, like, you could rule the world. Like, no, don't let anyone take that, spark away from you. So, that is, and I truly believe that. And I know not everybody, I'm not asking either. I'm not striving for, one gender to be better than the other at all.
Yeah.
I am just asking for equality.
Absolutely.
And it shouldn't be that difficult and it shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah.
And I should tell you, Melissa, that there are so many researches that state that by the age of 5, a little girl starts believing that then their gender can't do as much. And then by the age of 9, a little girl's confidence peaks. And then she starts to feel the need to conform to a way a girl should look, should act, and should feel. Right. And it's not surprising with the confusing and conflicting messages that they receive.
No.
So it's up to us to just, call out all of this and recognize. I almost feel like once that light bulb goes on, then you start seeing more and more and more of this, inequality that is out there.
Yeah.
And I always say, talk about it with your spouse, talk about it, with your children, talk about it with your friends, like, this is BS. Like, this is not okay.
Yeah.
Because, I guess what I'm doing is I'm sounding the siren that, gender inequality starts early.
Yeah.
And so I've always thought, let's look at the root of the problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when we're older, when you're in your teens or your 20s or, are in the workforce, there's so many self-help classes for women, right?
Yeah.
How do you fit in? How do you do it all? Which is all BS in my opinion.
It is.
If it works for you, great. I shouldn't say that. If it works for you, great. But I'm saying, let's look at the root of the problem, because women and girls, we're not broken.
Right.
It's our culture that's broken and our society that needs to be fixed. It's not us.
Yeah, 1,000%. I love that so much. And when you've made this shift in the decisions you've made and making these bold choices, which shouldn't feel bold, but they are because of the society we live in, to put these products out there that are a connect point. This and going on your own PR and writing the books and being a speaker and being a voice, this has opened doors of opportunity for you to have influence, to get in front of people that do have the power to make changes. Talk to me about how that has been and what is, I know there's a lot of frustration right now, but also I would hope there's some hope in that. Talk to me about what you see happening as you're engaged in these spaces.
I mean, the last years, I'll be honest, when I'm at a speaking event, it's difficult. I have a lot of sad women.
Yeah.
A lot of, what do we do? Asking that question.
Yeah.
I do think, there is hope from the November election of, women being, now we have 2 new governors that are female. I think, things could be shifting. We will see. I'm not quite sure. But it's been hard. So there was like a point. So my book launched in January and I was very, very busy for about a good 6 months. And then in June, things started to get very heavy and I started to see myself pull back from doing some things. And then I realized, you know what? It's okay to rest. We're in very difficult times.
Yeah.
Where it's okay for us to rest. It's not okay to give up.
Yes.
So again, going back to your beginning, taking care of yourself in this climate, it is okay to rest, but it's not okay to give up.
Yeah.
So I guess that's been, part of my self-care in this particular time of life in our culture, which has been crazy. So, I will always continue to fight. I will always continue to fight. And I give a lot of credit to Ms. Magazine for giving me a platform to always, say what is on my mind.
Yeah.
I hope other people like it too. I think they do.
Yes. I love that so much. So important to have those spaces that you're going to get to be seen, known, and heard and valued and respected and honored in that way. And also I love what you said. It's so important right now. When I went into this year, I was just like, oh, this work I'm doing and these voices I'm sharing and these ways that I'm supporting women are more important than ever. And also it requires more intentional space to rest and refuel because it's heavy and it's anxiety ridden and it's hard and it can be infuriating at times. But it's more important now than ever for us to show up for this, but we got to make sure we're doing it with a filled cup or we will hit the wall. We will get discouraged. We will quit. And this is a time we need more of us, not less of us. So thank you for sharing that part about rest. So important. Rest, refill, and get back in there. Let's go.
Yeah, you got to go. And then we'll get tired again until it's done. We just cannot give up. And like you said, Melissa, there are so many different spaces where we can help others, like you giving me and other women a space where we can share our voices. It's, on social media, it's marching, it's, voting, it's knocking on doors, it's making phone calls, but it's using your voice.
Yeah.
And I can't, stress that enough, that the importance of using your voice.
Yeah, absolutely. Finding that place that's aligned to you and show up there. We can't all do everything, but we can all do something. I know that's been used a lot lately, but it's so true. So true. All right. So talk to me about I talk a lot to women about embracing their layers, all the pieces and parts of their story that make up who they are, the parts we love, the parts we don't love. We as women carry so much shame, so much guilt, all these things we do to ourselves, going back to what you were talking about with perfection earlier. We put these unrealistic standards on us based on these expectations everyone else has expressed, instead of just getting really curious and rather than judgmental about, okay, what are these spaces and places that are getting in my way of me fully embracing who I am, fully knowing my value, forgiving myself, getting rid of that shame narrative, stop feeling guilty, all those things. I feel like there's, for you to really be able to show up in the world as healthy and authentically as you can, you got to get to a place where you can embrace and acknowledge all those things. So talk to me about your layers journey and how you feel like that has unfolded for you and you being able to really get to that point with all that's happened in your life.
Right. Oh my gosh, Melissa, let me quickly go through some high and low points of my career. Okay. So that'll, lead your followers to understand, your listeners to understand, how I got here. So with the Go-Go Sports Girls in 2015, so I hung in there for 5 long years.
Yeah.
And it was very hard, but I knew I was right. Walmart picked up my brand. So that really got the wheels turning, right? And the motion, and it was just snowballing. In 2016, my business was acquired by a large company called Jazzwares. It seems like it would be awesome at that point. They were going to relaunch the line of dolls, removed everything from Walmart. Walmart was on board with it all. And then they got cold feet. I had a team at Jazzwares of about 10 people, maybe, I think it was 9 women and 1 man.
Okay.
And then they hired 2 new guys, and they weren't convinced that a true girl empowerment product would work because it's never been done before. And they didn't want to be the first. So they returned the intellectual property to me at no charge, which was, they did the right thing.
Sure.
It was, hard, but it was the best breakup ever. So that's when and then COVID hit and then whatever. And that's when I realized my journey has been more than a doll.
Yeah.
And that's when I started writing my book. And that took quite a while. So my book, More Than a Doll. And it, I didn't stop there either. When Biden got into into office, he immediately created the Gender Policy Council. And I started working with them. And I did that for the last 4 years. So that was, when it came to policy on toys and media and publishing. Wow. So I feel like I really did a lot with that. I did a study with the Gina Davis Institute and how diversity, equity, and inclusion is related to toys and marketing and advertising. It's a fantastic study. It's on my website. It's on their website. It really tells a lot. So I just won't stop advocating for women and girls because, deep in my heart and my soul, I know that, women were born to change the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the bottom line, that is the bottom line.
Yeah. And you didn't allow that disruption or disappointment derail you. You moved into a new iteration, a new season, saw all the possibilities, got to, have a voice and space and influence in these really impactful pockets that make it really important, far-reaching decisions. Yeah. It's important to be able to pivot. Yeah. Right. And a lot of times those pivots, it takes a while to figure out which way am I going to go. Mm-hmm. But it is important to always be able to pivot. And I try to remind myself because what I do is not easy. It's not easy at all. I mean, there are a lot of, I've been called a man hater. I have been called I'm like, I don't hate men. I just just want us to have a place at the table too.
Exactly. I'm like, I mean, I get hate mail. I get, people,
Wow.
it's just, it's, there are just so many, a few nasty ones, but so many that are amazing that want to do great work. So I feel that outnumbers the nasty, right?
Yeah.
We can't let the nasty get in the way.
Yeah.
So yes, but there's always there's always a pivot that needs to take place. We all know that in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just which direction.
Yeah. I love that. I love that explanation. I think it's so important to circle back around to this isn't about getting rid of anybody. It's about making room for all of us and all of us to have the same opportunity and impact and influence and get rid of this idea of scarcity and fear around that. And it really comes down to the end of the day, there are factions that just don't want to give up power. They just don't want to give up power. I mean, just call it what it is. And they're not interested in sharing. It's working for them, but it's hurting most of the rest of the population because it's a small faction it's working for. And so being willing to be the disruptors and being willing to speak the truth, but also speaking the truth to the fact this isn't about anybody trying to get rid of anybody else. This is simply about making room for all of us. Because if we're going to be as healthy and cohesive and powerful in the best way that we can be, it requires all of us. Yeah.
Very well said.
Yes. Oh, so good. Thank you so much for that. All right. You have learned to do this. You live so well, what I call F.E.E.L, finding empowerment, embracing layers. You have found your empowerment. You've embraced your layers. You live authentically out of that. Talk to me about the impact that has had on your relationship with yourself, as well as your relationships with other people.
Okay, say that again.
Your ability to live out F.E.E.L. You've lived that out, finding empowerment, embracing layers. You have found your empowerment. You've embraced your layers. You know your value. So talk to me about that impact, being able to do that, making that shift that you did many years ago to live out of your own expectations versus others, what that's done in terms of your relationship with yourself and how you feel about yourself, and then in turn, how that impacts your relationships with other people.
Yeah, it is interesting. Like it has been very healthy for me to be able to, express myself in this way, and something that is so important to me.
Yeah.
I think it's been really, healthy for my children to see, their mom, fighting for something and passionate about something.
Yeah.
I think, with my husband, he's been, super supportive, but, did we have our arguments? Of course, because I wasn't making a lot of money, but, I would always say, I'm like, but I'm trying to change the world. There has to be some value in that, right?
Yeah.
But that being said, you need money, to live too. So I understand where he was coming from at that point when our kids were little.
Yeah.
When it comes to, some people, like when I had, some men that I know read my book and come up to me and just say, "Oh my gosh, I am giving this to every man I know. Every man should read this book." And, surprising to me, I'm like, "Oh, wow, thank you." Right.
Yeah.
And I've had women, of course, women really relate to my book. But I've also had, some people who don't agree with me, who have said what I'm doing is ridiculous, that women have a role in this world and men have a role in this world. Wow. Yeah. I mean, and those people, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I don't really need to, talk to you or, because that's the way you feel. That's good, and that's your prerogative. But yeah, I've had, more support than not, and more positive that has come out of this relation, with relationships, with my journey than not. Yeah. But yeah, there have been some that, it hasn't, they like the way things have been set up in the past, and, they don't like change. Yeah. And, frankly, I'm trying to create change.
Yeah. And I think it's so important that we learn the importance of like, there's just people, you're not going to change their minds. They don't want to change. So you don't waste your energy there. You don't need to wait, say, okay, and move on. I think it's so important to release that in that sense of responsibility that sometimes we as women feel to change people's minds or convince them to do or believe what we're believing. I'm like, you can bang yourself against the wall for a long time trying to do that, not get anywhere. Why not expend your energy into places and spaces that are ready for you and welcoming for you and waiting for you to show up? So thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. All right. We are winding down here in our conversation. Share with me 5 activities that nourish you.
5 activities that nourish me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. One activity, all my children are adult children, and I love being with them and my husband, and they are just like so fun.
Mm-hmm.
So that totally nourishes me. That my girlfriends,
Mm-hmm.
they nourish me all the time. I don't know what I would do without my girlfriends.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm going to go into sports now. I love to play sports. I love paddle. I love to ride my bike. I love, to golf. That really helps me.
Mm-hmm.
I love to cook.
Mm-hmm.
That nourishes me.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I love to do, I love to listen to books.
Mm-hmm.
I don't read as much as I used to, but I get a lot more information from listening.
Yeah.
Just because, again, I'm active. I can go on a walk, or I can cook and listen to a book. So I can do 2 things at once.
Yeah.
So I would say that is what nourishes me. So that's a good question, because I want to do them all right now.
I know. But it's also when you name those things, that it's like you're intentional about making sure you're including them in your spaces and places when you bring them to the attention. I love the nuance that is involved in those activities too. There's athletic things, there's contemplative things, there's learning and curiosity things, there's cooking and nourishing things. There's a full gamut of things. And I think that's such a great example of the nuance that exists within all of us and what comes and what's possible when we don't put limits on that. I love that. So beautiful. All right.
Because you know what, Melissa, really quick, because going back to what you said, like your daughters, they're all full humans. We're all so complex. And when we start pigeonholing people, that's when problems start.
Yeah. 100%. It's actually kind of simple in concept, but we just have not been able to get the world to come along into it in actual application, but we're not giving up. Still working every day. All right. 5 words on how you want to feel the next 6 months.
Oh God. Yeah. Like some relief.
Touche.
Some relief. Not exhausted. I think, contentment in our world. That would be nice. Joy, of course. Doesn't everyone want to feel joy? And healthy.
Yeah.
Hoping, our culture can stay, physically and mentally, healthy, and not, go underwater. So, and, I wish that for everybody, actually. We all need to stay strong. And that's another one, strength. It is amazing how much strength I feel like I tap into and how much more we all have. Right. So we need to dig deeper and dig deeper and dig deeper.
Yeah.
And find that strength.
There's so much within us that's possible when we're willing to tap into it. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Share with people where they can find you, follow you, get access to your resources, your book. And then this will also be on our website at embracinglayers.com on our resources page.
Okay, awesome. It's, my website, JodiBondiNorgaard.com, or I have, I write for Ms. Magazine. I write on Substack. LinkedIn, Instagram, those are probably my 2 biggest ones. Shoot me, a comment, a question. I'd be happy to answer.
Okay. All right. Love that. And final thoughts you'd like to leave with our listeners today? What's a final thought?
Oh, yeah. stay strong and stand tall.
So good. Jodi Bondi Norgaard, thank you so much for joining me today. I could talk to you all day. You give me so much hope. I love your story. What you're doing and how you show up in the world is so important. Keep fighting the good fight and take care of yourself along the way. I think that it's more of that, of just, and not losing hope, not losing sight, and knowing that there's people like you out in the world every day showing up. And that spirit that you have and that sense of commitment that you have comes from so deep inside of you. Thank you so much for being with me, for sharing this time. Listeners, keep showing up for yourselves every day. You're worth it. You're valuable. You get to choose, and don't give up. When you feel tired, when you feel wore out, take some time out, take some time to rest, and then get back in and bring other women with you. Let's do this together. Take good care of yourselves, and we'll see you here next time on the F.E.E.L podcast. Hello, and thank you so much for being with us today on this episode of the F.E.E.L podcast. If you would like more information on how you can apply these talking points that I share with our guests in each episode to your own life, really utilize this F.E.E.L framework, go to embracinglayers.com, fill out our contact form, and let's set up a free 30-minute consultation to talk about how you can start living your most authentic, organic, healthy, F.E.E.L-fueled life. Thanks again for being with us today. We'll be back to you soon with another episode here on the F.E.E.L podcast.